Hello, Thunder Wizards. This is Mahadeva, the OG Thunder Wizard. Today, I want to narrow down for you how you can get out of the matrix. Everybody wants to be happy. Everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody wants to be prosperous. That is just a basic human need. And so I'm going to try and simplify it as much as possible so that you understand how it works. When you understand how this works, you will be willing to do the work to make it happen. It's that simple. So if I'm doing my job, then I'm going to be able to show you what the goal is. And when that becomes important enough to you, you no longer have to struggle. We're going to talk about the portal to the fifth dimension is inside of you now. It's not something outside of you. And it is, in fact, the pineal gland, which is in your brain. And we're going to talk about how to activate the pineal gland to download 5D into 3D. Before we go any further, again, I need to stress the point of this channel is to do the work. That's it. Talking is meaningless unless the talking stimulates you to take action. If all you're doing is listening to me talk, I'm not doing my job. So I'm going to appeal to your codependence right now. If you want to make me feel better, then listen to what I'm saying and take the actions. The actions are what will save you, not my words, not your thoughts. Your actions is what will save you. All right. So on this channel, as you know, I give you practical tools. Go on to the YouTube channel page. I'm still running into people who don't know how to search within somebody's YouTube channel. It's frustrating as hell. First thing that I do when I go onto somebody's YouTube channel is I go onto their channel page, their YouTube channel page, and I search. I think of search terms that I want to learn about. Pineal gland, meditation, 5D, whatever. And I type it in there and it tells me what that person on that channel talks about. And then I don't have to ask questions. What about I can go and watch every one of those videos. Do the same thing on my channel. On a laptop, you just go to the magnifying glass in the menu bar there. If you don't have a laptop, you have a phone, you can still find a pull down menu that will say search terms, something like that. Please don't be lazy. Please take the action to find out what it goes on in my channel. Go on to the playlists, do the meditations. I don't care what it is, the whole breath, awakening the immortals, I don't care. If you're dead serious about change and you want me to walk you through exactly how to shift all of the energy systems within your body so that you can tap into your pineal gland and do what we're talking about, go here to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge at thunderwizard.com. Subscribe. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. It's about the cost of a video game, and I know you spend at least that much money every month on stuff that isn't helping you to escape, that isn't helping you. In fact, you are probably spending that money on things we're going to talk about now, which is ways to keep you in the fear matrix, which is the cause of all disease, all unhappiness, all poverty, all loneliness, all the negative things that go on in your life are the result of you living within the fear matrix that you create within the chemistry of your own body. All right? Okay, so I'm going to try and stay on topic here today as I tend to go off on rants, but once again, let's get back to what is the title of this. We are going to look at the portal to 5D. We're talking about an actual wormhole portal that is able to take you to the fifth dimension right now, and it is able to bring the fifth dimension to you. Most importantly, it gives you the ability to create your reality. Don't wait for the solar flash to come. Don't wait for anything. None of that is designed. In fact, the people that are sitting around waiting for this thing to show up, I'm pretty sure a lot of those people are people who are going to choose to stay in 3D because they don't understand what this shift is about. You can experience that shift now. You don't have to wait. All right? Have I made my point? All right, let me take a look at my notes here. So, the pineal gland is the door to the fifth dimension. Every spiritual tradition teaches this. When the Vedics talk about the crown chakra, and they talk about the crown chakra opening and you going into a state of samadhi, what do you think that is? Pineal gland. The pineal gland is filled with crystals. It is filled with crystals, and as you know, crystals are able to transmit energy. If you have a quartz watch, we don't have that. It used to be a big thing. Quartz, Swiss quartz watch. Well, the quartz inside of the watch is what powered it. So quartz crystals are like batteries. That's why people like quartz crystals. I remember going to it had to have been 25 years ago. I remember going to a store that had a bunch of crystals, and there was this basket that was filled with smoky quartz crystals from Tibet. And I remember thinking, crystals, and I literally just like put my hand in the bowl of crystals, and I went, I could feel all of this energy. It's because quartz crystals have the ability to create energy. You have crystals in your pineal gland. When you do the Maoshan practices, which I teach, especially, I'll write it down here, especially the 5-element Maoshan, sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time. If you go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com, those practices are the quickest way to create the pump inside of your body, where people talk about the Christos, which is the fluid in the spinal column. When that rises up and goes into the pineal gland, and the pineal gland, those crystals move around, it creates 5D energy. It creates an energy field, right? So the Vedics talk about it, yogis talk about it, and they talk about opening up the crown chakra. The Taoists talk about it. They talk about different centers of the brain, and of course they talk about it in spiritual terms. You bring deities into different portals of the brain, but they always talk about the center of the brain where the pineal gland is. When you open and activate that, that is what creates the immortals. You want to become an immortal? You want to live forever? You want to shift out of this body and go somewhere else? It's the pineal gland that has to be activated. We're now in a state of reality where we're talking about it openly instead of it being hidden in some secret spiritual understanding. Okay? So this is the door to the fifth dimension. Fifth dimension is an actual place. I know people like to talk about 5D and they conflate, the fifth density and the fourth density. I'd like for you to forget that stuff. That's coming from, the law of one, which, by the way, is not accurate. It's coming from a place of actual fear. It's coming from codependence. Please drop that. But fifth dimension, according to science, physics, is an actual place. It's an actual realm. And it is in the fifth dimension where we create everything. So in the fifth dimension, unlike in the third dimension, time is not a static past to future experience. In the fifth dimension, you have all of the probabilities in front of you. And you can literally grab from any one of the probabilities and choose to experience it, and it becomes a reality. In the third dimension, in our body, when we access the fifth dimension, what happens is you have an idea about something. You get inspired. You start to think about the reality that you want to create, and then you choose it. You're literally grabbing it from the fifth dimension and you are creating it in the third dimension. And what ends up happening is you feel as though it comes to you. This is where the law of attraction comes in. You feel as though you've attracted this thing, but the reality is you haven't attracted it. You've created it in the fifth dimension and you just walk into it. And so going from thinking about something in the fifth dimension and walking into it in the third dimension becomes much more quick than the normal third dimension reality, which is you have to go out and spend years working at something. I got nothing against that, because that, as you know, I believe in going after what you want. So I like to do both. Anyway, the 3D slave matrix. This is what you're talking about. When anybody talks about escaping the matrix, whenever they talk about anything negative about the 3D life, people call this a prison planet. Well, it's only a prison planet if you are in fact trapped within your own 3D prison matrix within yourself, because everything is inside of you. Everything. Nothing is outside of you. And if you can accept that assumption, then, by the way, just to accept that assumption that everything is inside of you, just that act. By the way, accepting an assumption doesn't mean that you believe it. It doesn't mean that you even feel it. It's something that you are choosing for yourself. You say, I'm going to choose the reality, and here's the assumption behind it. I don't see it, I don't believe it, I'm going to choose to believe it. And that is that everything is inside of you. When you accept that assumption, everything is inside of you, you automatically kick in a new gear, because you are now taking responsibility. As long as you believe things are outside of you, you are a victim of circumstance, because that means that something is going to happen to you and you will be a slave to whatever circumstance hits you. You will be a slave to whatever feelings come up, which are, again, are responses to things. But what happens in the third dimension is you get on the hamster wheel. The hamster wheel is you're trapped in your animal body. You're not a part of your spiritual self. You're trapped in your 3D animal body. Animals simply react to impulses and stimulation. That's all they do. That's why the Hopis have said that we are leaving the era of the animal and we are entering into the era of the human being. The human being is the fifth dimensional being who happens to live in a physical body but is operating from the fifth dimension. That is the human state. Even my ancestors, they called humans Man, M-A-N-N, which means mind. It also means moon. What does the moon do? The moon reflects the sun. The sun is the soul. So to be a human being means to actually operate and reflect from the infinite, not from the finite. If you're not operating from that, according to my ancestors, you're a dwarf. And what do dwarves become? Dwarves become evil monsters, which they call dragons, and that hoards gold and gets, that like in the the Hobbit trilogy movie, the dragon ends up just obsessed over gold. It means that you're trapped in the lie of the third dimension, and that you can either be a dwarf, an animal, or you can be a human. So if you want to be a human, then you get to be divine. You get to create your reality. And you have to first accept that that can happen for you. So you must first accept that everything is inside of you. And everything outside of you is not able to control you unless you allow it to control you. All right? So this 3D slave matrix, the prison planet, is an internal experience. There's really nothing wrong with this third dimension. There's nothing wrong with it. The only problem is that people are trapped in the illusion of isolation. Human beings never really understood what this experiment was about, which is why it's coming to an end. 3D is coming to an end very soon. And the reason for that is because there was one part of this experiment that failed. And the part of the experiment that failed was that human beings were supposed to enjoy being in their creation, to living and walking around in their creation. And we could have done that. But instead, what happened is we allowed the 3D slave matrix. We allowed the narrative. That's what people mean when people say the narrative of this and the narrative of that. They're talking about a matrix of belief that you end up becoming hypnotized by. And unfortunately, we get so lost in that we can't take advantage of what this third dimension was about. And this third dimension was about going beyond that and being it. This is why our bodies have pineal glands. It's why we have chakras. It's why we have kundalini. It's why we have all of these beautiful things that this technological marvel of spirituality called the human body has. We were designed to be able to use all of that so that we could play and have fun. I did it yesterday. I'm going to do it today. That's why I'm doing this early today, is because I'm going to go surfing. And it's just the funnest thing I could ever imagine doing. I don't want to leave my physical body because I don't want to end that game. It's too much fun. So you can have the freedom of 5D right now if you choose to, but you're going to have to adopt some assumptions, and you're going to have to do some practices which will stimulate the pineal gland, and then you're going to have to do some other things which we'll talk about. All right. So first I have to give you a base assumption. And so an assumption is not a feeling. It's something you choose to believe. And it's something that when you choose to believe it, you then are committing to taking actions in support of that assumption. Right? So that's what you're doing. If you accept this assumption, it may go against everything that your nervous system and your body and your history and your religion has told you. It may be completely opposite of that. But by choosing to accept the assumption, you are committing. I'm going to act on this. I'm going to act as though this is true. So before I get into it, I just want you to have the opportunity with yourself to make that commitment to yourself. That I'm going to accept this assumption, which means I'm going to take actions based on it, whether I like it or not, because I want the end goal. So that assumption is that you already are existing in the fifth dimension. What is the fifth dimension? We've already said the fifth dimension is an actual dimensional realm that is above the third. Third dimension is actually part of the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is time. We live in space-time. Space is 3D, time is 4D. So we're in the fourth dimension, we're flowing through it. So the next highest one is the fifth dimension. In the fifth dimension, where you already exist, time is not flowing from backwards to forward, from past to future. The time in the fifth dimension is a series of infinite probabilities that you can choose from. And so you've got all these different screens, and you can choose, just like in the Matrix. Remember when he was talking to the architect and there was all those screens and each one of them had a face of Neo on it and Neo was saying a different thing? That's a perfect example. It's exactly like that. You've got all of these different screens of possibilities that you could be experiencing, and you just simply focus on one of them, and that's the one that you experience. So that's going on all the time anyway. You don't realize it. You chose to do that when you got into the 3D matrix, which is if you're in pain, if you're in fear, if you're poor, if you're sick, if you're lonely, if you're miserable in any way, it's because you are trapped in the third dimensional narrative matrix. The way out of it, tap into the fifth. You can't do that if your pineal gland isn't working. That's my experience anyway. If you get this guy going, then you can create a portal. You can go into that 5th dimension. You can go, let's see, oh, that looks pretty cool. Let's go into that. Then you come back into your body, and sure enough, that thing that you just imagined will start to happen. As long as you continue to act on the assumption. You must continue to act on the assumption. We'll talk about that. So the assumption is you're already existing in 5D. The question is whether or not your 5D self is in control of manifesting your reality, or whether your 3D animal brain is merely reacting to the 3rd dimension. See the difference? If you're in the 3rd dimension, you're going to feel, you're going to experience as though things are happening to you. You are going to react to those things. This is what happens with our past. You have a past memory, which, by the way, doesn't exist. I don't care what happened to you. Somebody did this to you when you were a kid. Somebody did that to you. Your parents did this. That's in the past. But you're still living as though it's in your present. You're reacting to it. This is, by the way, all mental illness. Except for, mental illness where somebody actually, has they got hit in the head with a sledgehammer or something. If we're talking about people with extreme emotional mental disorders that create a mental illness, it's that they're still reacting to something that happened in the past as though it's in the present. So if you're stressed out, you're in fear, you're constantly complaining about money, your health, your love life, you're lonely, you don't like yourself, whatever the heck it is, every single one of those I've done, so I get it. It means that you're reacting to something in the past which doesn't exist, and you're acting as though it is happening to you right now. So the 3rd dimension is a reactionary state. You can't stop reacting as long as you stay in the 3rd dimension. Okay, so hold on to that. You're not good or bad for being trapped in 3D, you're just human. The 3D human narrative matrix. So, as I said before, there's nothing wrong with the 3rd dimension. Absolutely nothing at all wrong with it. It is a place where you can physically experience, in a very real, dense, physical way, all kinds of things. And human beings were supposed to get to the place where they tap into that 5th dimension and they turn this into a Disneyland. That's what was supposed to happen. Now, nature is doing that. The ocean is doing that. The birds are doing that. I mean, think about birds. Birds used to be dinosaurs, by the way. And have you ever watched birds? The amazing ability they have to do the impossible. They can fly through the air so fast. They can do so many amazing things. They used to be big, lumpy, giant dinosaurs, and they evolved. They evolved beyond that, and now they spend their entire time in the air, flying around, free. It's a really wonderful experience. So, 3D is a beautiful place if you're able to create that portal. If you're able to go through with your pineal gland, connect to that portal, and experience whatever it is you want. And then bring it back down into this place and turn this into a magical place. The 5D that we're talking about is going to be nothing other than that. That's it. The 5th dimension, when it comes, the solar flash, it'll simply be an excuse. There's going to be an experience. And that experience will be an excuse for people to go ahead and just be what they already have the capability of being. And they will create a fantasy world because they're allowing themselves to. That's the only thing that's happening here. So stop waiting for it to come. You go and go to it. All right, so the 3D human narrative matrix. That is, we live in an actual 3D matrix which has an illusion of isolation, an illusion of limitation that we were supposed to overcome. But when you talk about the prison matrix that people want to escape, it does exist, but it's not the 3rd dimension itself. It is a dimension within the 3rd dimension. which I'm calling the narrative. So we have the human consensus, which has power. It is an actual state of reality. And it is something that we are designed to be a part of because we are social beings and we are designed to be a part of the consensus, which is why your instinct is to trust. That's why there are people who still are in it. That's why there are people who still watch MSNBC and CBS and NBC who think that this meant something and that protects them from something. It's because they want to be a part of the collective, which, you know, in when you got a herd mentality, that's safe. Being in the center of the herd. You know, this is what happens when, you know, you've got herds of animals. What happens? They put the babies in the middle because that's where the safety is. That's why your dog, in case you didn't know it, why your dog wants to sleep on your bed with you. Because your dog wants to be close to the pack because that's where safety is. By the way, people who leave their dogs alone and you wonder why you hear dogs barking all day, it's because dogs don't like to be left alone. It makes them extremely uncomfortable. It's incredibly selfish to just leave your dog out in the backyard all day. You know, put them in a pen. They're much happier in a pen. Train them as puppies to go in pens. They'll be a lot happier if you leave them in the pen for 3 or 4 hours. Anyway, it drives me crazy. People, you know, they're like, my dog doesn't bark. No, your dog doesn't bark when you're home, but he barks like crazy when you're not home and the rest of us have to listen to it. Anyway, you are a social being like a dog, and so your survival comes from being part of the pack. That's why people accept the narrative. So there's a strong internal physical animal drive to accept the narrative. The 3D human narrative matrix is designed to do 2 things. The narrative is designed to convince you that your 5D self doesn't exist. This is what happened with monotheist religion. Before the Abrahamic religions were created, 5-something BC, before that time, there was no such thing as a monotheist religion. It didn't exist. There was no such thing as a literalist religion. It didn't exist. Religion was always something that was mythological. What happens when you get involved in mythology? You go to the 5th dimension. This is why people love Marvel movies. They love watching movies about gods, and because it takes you into the 5th dimension. Possibility. There's not one reality, there's multiple realities. And this used to be how humans functioned. The whole purpose of polytheist, shamanic, mythological based religions was to give you a portal to the 5th dimension. And true mythology is actually downloaded from the 5th dimension. That's why Abrahamic religion is so destructive, because it's meant to be taken literally. You have to take it as literal history. And that dualist understanding, God's out there and you're here. It is designed to convince you that the 5th dimension doesn't exist. That's why in the spread of Christianity, which was they took the Abrahamic Old Testament narrative and perfected it. They made it even more destructive. They made it even more literal, more narcissistic. The reason why that worked so well is because it convinced you that everything that was physical was bad. That's why in Europe, you'll find a lot of places called Devil's Hill, Devil this, Devil that, because those used to be places of power where Mother Nature came through the spring coming out of the ground, or the mountain or the glen or the sacred forest. And so what you did is you went there, and it just, even if it wasn't true, just the belief that you were connecting to something spiritual put you into the 5th dimension. So that's why Christians came around. And by the way, the Romans, when they would go into some place that they had a hard time conquering, if it was a polytheist shamanic religion, they would chop down the sacred forest. That's the first thing they would do. They would chop down the sacred forest because that's where people believed the gods lived. And if they saw their sacred forest chopped down, they didn't know where the gods were. How can we access the gods? They're now trapped in the third dimensional narrative matrix. That was a big thing. There was in Europe, there was a very old, huge oak tree that was supposed to be where Thunar lived. And some Christian guy came and chopped it down. They ended up killing him. For that, for what he did. But that had a strong impact, because now the symbol of the fifth dimension for those people went away. And so now you're in the narrative of believing that only the third dimension exists. This is what is wrong with science. This is what is wrong with academics. This is what is wrong with religion. But it all came from religion. And it did its job, because scientists and academics, a lot of them are atheists. It did its job. They have rejected anything that is in any way a non-physical experience. If I can't see it, touch it, and taste it, it doesn't exist. So this is the narrative. The narrative, MSNBC, whatever it is, Rachel Maddow, it is designed to convince you that the fifth dimension doesn't exist, which is why you need to get a third, fourth, and fifth in order to stay alive, right? Because it's a way of staying connected to the matrix, to the narrative. All right, so the first design of the narrative matrix is to convince you that your 5D self doesn't exist. And the second one, once you've been convinced that the fifth dimension doesn't exist, you're stupid, you're childish, you're immature to believe in any of that, grow up. Stop imagining your reality. That's what kids do. Put on a stupid tie that doesn't mean anything. Go sit in a cubicle and, create widgets or sell widgets or whatever it is you do. Once that you have done that, then the second job of the matrix is to create unsolvable problems in the third dimension that don't exist. What is the main thing that people worry about most? Money. And as we talked about, money is an arbitrary intellectual concept. It does not exist. Money does not exist. Don't believe me? Try and take your credit card and eat it. Try and take your credit card and wear it. I mean, I'm not even talking about, physical money anymore. There is nothing about money that exists. It's now become, it's already become a digital thing. But now it wants to be controlled. The government wants to control digital currency. And that's literally saying we're going to control currency that doesn't exist. It is just an idea. It's just software. And we're going to control it. And if you don't have these imaginary credits that we have on our software, on our computers, in our banks, if you don't take what we give you, we won't let you do anything. We won't let you eat. We won't let you live. You could say, no, I don't have money. Well, who's controlling that? Unless we agree that money exists, it ceases to exist. In other words, you have to, every single day, you have to get up and you have to put effort. You do it by habit, so you don't realize you're doing it. But every day you get up and you put effort into believing in the reality of something that is merely ones and zeros on somebody's hard drive. Money can't feed you. It can't clothe you. Clothing feeds you. Food feeds you. But food and clothing would feed you whether money existed or not. People die over this. You spend the majority of your time thinking about it. You spend the majority of your time worrying about it. Worrying about your credit card debt. Worrying about your lack of credit card debt. I mean, one of the strange things is you can't even get a credit score. You can't get a loan if you haven't already been in debt. I can remember that. Do you have any debt? No. Well, we can't give you any debt. Can't give you a credit card if you don't have any debt. So The narrative is trying to convince you that things that don't exist are problems you have to solve. Now, what ends up happening now is you have an unsolvable problem. Your physical 3D body, its nervous system, and all of the animal parts of you, all the parts of your brain took millions and millions of years, all of the animals that were designed and created by you, your soul, before you came here, in order to create this physical matrix that you could live in. The animal parts of your body are designed to solve problems. So if you have fear, it's designed to either eliminate a threat or run away from it. And the moment that you've eliminated the threat or run away from it, the fear disappears. And now you're back in a state of balance again. But the third dimensional narrative creates an unsolvable problem so that your nervous system, your animal self-protection nervous system, fight or flight, when that gets stimulated, you try and solve the problem by thinking about it. So you start to worry about money. And now you're in an unsolvable problem. And what happens then? Your body releases all kinds of negative hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, and your heart starts beating faster, and your respiration goes up. Your mind becomes so hyper-focused, as though a grizzly bear is coming to kill you. It gets so focused on that you're only in the most rudimentary part of your fear-based physical system. Where are you? You're trapped in the third dimension. You're trapped in the slave matrix. Because your body's saying, let's solve the problem, and your brain is saying, I can't solve it. Yet I have to solve it, but I can't. And now you're crazy. So we could pretty much say that everybody in the world who is connected to any part of this matrix, that's how, to the level you're connected to the narrative, that's how crazy you are. You're worried about solving. I mean, think again about what happened the past 3 years. Some supposed illness showed up, and that was supposed to take care of it. And the first one didn't do it. And then the second one didn't do it. And then the third one didn't do it. And now we have to take, ones that are combinations of other ones. And then we have to, and then we have to do it. It's an unsolvable problem. You never get to the point where you're like, okay, I've solved that problem. It's designed to keep you in that state of fear all the time. Same thing with reputation. You have to look good. Same thing with wanting people to love you. You're stuck in something that never gets solved because you're responding to the feeling you had 10 or 20 years ago where you didn't feel loved because your mommy and daddy didn't love you. I'm sorry, mine didn't either. They didn't love you properly, and you're stuck in that as though it's still happening. Notice, I still do this. At 59 years of age, I still will stop myself and go, hang on. Everybody in my family's dead. There's nobody out there thinking negatively about me. There's nobody who I have to gain their approval. Nobody. So this feeling that I'm having right now, if I've had it, if I'm having a feeling I'm not good enough, insecure, it's coming literally from nowhere. There is nothing in the physical reality that is causing this for me. And it's an unsolvable problem. It's the desire to be loved and accepted. It's the main thing that prevents you from experiencing what you want, is the desire to be loved and accepted on that hamster wheel. You can't get off it. By the way, if you have that and you find somebody who does love you and accept you, you'll reject them. Because what ends up happening next is that when you get trapped into the narrative matrix, it becomes addictive. It becomes addictive because you believe that you're doing something that is saving your life. There's a video game. I mean, on my phone, on my tablet, when I sit on the toilet, it's one of those ball games. It bounces around, and I've come to realize it's not a great game for me because no matter, I can never solve it, and it's addicting, because you're looking for that payoff in your brain. And when I do solve it, I go, that wasn't nearly as fun as I thought. That's what reality is like. The desire to be loved, being trapped in the fear of almost having it but not quite getting it, is where you like to be. Isn't that what life is about? Look at the billionaires out there. They're miserable. They're miserable. They have all the money anybody could ever want, and it doesn't make them happy. So what do? They try and get their next billion. If the first billion didn't solve it, the second billion isn't going to solve it either. So we get addicted to that never-ending, I've almost got it, I'm going to get there in a second. It becomes familiar, we become addicted to it. So this is why people choose to stay in this narrative even though they complain about it. Okay, so the fear response becomes addictive because it is familiar. So you're addicted to it being in fear if you're trapped in the narrative. And when you are in the familiar, it gives you a feeling of safety because you understand it. So that feeling of stress that you complain about is actually comforting to you because you understand it. But to live in the 5D, by definition, is to live in the unknown. Because the truth is, the future hasn't happened yet. And the now can be whatever you decide. If you decide to live in what you know, that's what the now will be. It'll be a perpetual repetition of what you understand. When you go into the fifth dimension, because time is not linear, nothing exists there physically like it does here. The only thing that exists in the fifth dimension is the possibility of what you could want to have. That's it. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the right now and the infinite numbers of possibilities that you can choose from. So in order to be presented with an infinite number of probabilities, you have to go to a state of the unknown. And that is the most frightening thing to the third dimension, because the third dimension, what defines it, is manifested, crystallized, physical reality. But again, that's an illusion. The third dimension is a holographic projection. No different than if you're looking at me on your phone or your computer, you're looking at a two-dimensional projection of my face. Try and grab it, I won't feel it. Try and touch my face, I won't feel it, because that's not me. It's a projection of me. So your 3D physical person and the rest of the 3D world is merely a 3D projection that's coming from the fifth dimensional state of infinite probabilities. And it only manifests because you've chosen something. Now the narrative tries to, the narrate. So when somebody narrates to you, they're telling you what to imagine. What happens when you listen to a narrator? What happened on that first day? The sun was shining, and they're narrating to you, and you begin to imagine it. And that's okay. The narrative is trying to narrate to you what your reality is. It's trying to narrate to you your experience. And of course, it's designed to make you feel afraid. The entire thing, this housing crisis, is a narrative. The war, there are actual people dying, and I'm sorry about that, but continuously being told about the war in Ukraine is designed to keep you in a narrative. It's designed to frighten you. Because when you're frightened, you can't be in the fifth dimension. You can't be in the fifth dimension and be actively engaged in your fear. I'm being specific with my language. You can have a feeling of fear. That's not the same as being engaged with your fear. This is what Buddhist meditation is all about, being able to look at it. Oh, look at that fear. That's interesting. That's not me. I'm not that fear. That is a reaction. That's not me. I am beyond that. If you're in it, then you think that that is you and that is real. So to live in the fifth dimension is to live in the unknown. So since it is unknown, your fear survival response will resist living in the unknown, because your fear survival response believes that staying in fear keeps you safe. And when you let go of that, you will be in an even more frightening position, because you won't know what's coming next. And because you're based in fear, you're going to assume it's going to be bad. So you can't live in the fifth dimension and be controlling anything. Fear is about control. That's why you choose to be in fear instead of choosing to be in the unknown. Unless you are somebody who's creating your own reality, in which case you choose the unknown so that you can create and continue to create new experiences for yourself. Create the freedom. The only way that you can access that I know of is through activating your pineal gland. The pineal gland is how, when I do my interdimensional meditation, I'm going out through my pineal gland. I mean, when I'm done, especially if I've had a very successful meditation, my whole head will feel like it's just huge, because all of that energy, all of the crystals in the pineal gland will have created a bunch of energy, and I can feel it. All of the practices that we do here in the 90-day challenge, especially the Mao Shan practices. Those practices, you don't realize what they do, besides doing all kinds of things we could talk about. But just the physical movements create a pump which sends the fluid in the spinal column up into the pineal and makes the pineal gland move. And every time that happens, it creates an energy vibration, which then, this is why you do the meditation right afterwards. You do the 3-1 meditations right after doing the 5 elements. You'll be able to tap right into the fifth dimension. You'll be there. And then to have the power to bring that down into the third dimension. This is what happens when you do CE5. When you do CE5, you're literally bringing the fifth dimension into your third dimensional experience. You create a portal through which these higher dimensional beings can come in and interact with you. And they pull you up into their dimension. So that's interesting. All of the fears that are given by the narrative are actually the flip side of reality. So what is the thing that people fear the most when it comes to aliens? They fear being physically abducted. Being physically abducted, being physically experimented on. That's the shadow side of the reality of it, which is it's not physical. When you interact with ETs, what happens is you shift into a higher dimension, and they can pull your energy into their dimensional experience. So you see, and again, it's frightening because it's different. So the only thing that's the same about the two initial experiences is the fear of the unknown. But one is a really, a human-created narrative, which makes you frightened of the third dimension, which again gives them control over you. Whereas your fear of the unknown, you have to face and experience if you want to really experience a connection with a higher dimensional being. And then when you get used to that becomes addicting as well. So what you want to do is you want to find the right addiction. You can be addicted to your fear because you understand it, or you can learn to move beyond that and learn to become addicted to the unknown and the energy and the power of the unknown, which is, I enjoy that. That's kind of what I've been most of my life, but it's getting more and more powerful as time goes on. And again, what will happen is one of these two dimensions is going to win this battle. This is what is going to happen when this 5D shift happens. The 5D shift will happen when enough people win the battle against the lower narrative matrix. When the battle between the third dimensional narrative matrix and the fifth dimensional divine matrix, when that battle is resolved, you will be on one of two sides. You'll be on the third dimension or the fifth dimension. At some point, you won't have both of them mixed together like we do now. All right, so when you are reacting from life from your 3D mind, then the memories, the fears, and the stressors of your nervous system have control over your reality. Your experience is that you have no control, which makes you even more frightened. And what ends up happening again is you react to ideas. You react to the past. I learned this a long time ago, probably 30 years ago, when it came to money, because, I was always broke and poor. I was an actor, had 2 jobs, and, I was always broke and poor. And so the stress of that actually gave me a kidney stone. The stress of money and the anger that I had about, not being able to make it and become rich and famous gave me a kidney stone. And as I was lying in that bed, the kidney stone was so big they had to climb up my what. And so I'm lying there in the hospital bed with tubes coming out of places tubes should not be coming out of. And I was in a lot of pain, and I remember thinking, I'm never going to worry about money again. It's just not worth it. There's no amount of worrying that has ever helped me, ever. So what I'll do is I'll do whatever I have to do during the day to get things done. And the moment that, the time clock is over, or I'm back at home and it's dark and there's nothing I can do, I'm going to stop worrying about it. And I'm going to ask myself, do I have everything I need? Do I have food? Yep. Do I have shelter? Yep. Do I have clothes? Yep. Am I everything functioning? Yep. Then I'm going to stop worrying about it. Because worrying accomplishes nothing. It's just a complete waste of energy that only causes you physical damage. But people get addicted to that. You get addicted to that fear because you understand it. So when you operate from your 5D self through integrating the pineal gland portal that connects you to the 5th dimension, you are impervious to the false, non-existent 3-dimensional problems. Would you like to have that? Now, I'm sitting here telling you that, I have credit card debt, but I don't care. I don't believe in credit. I don't believe in banks. It's just all a made-up game. I don't give a crap. I don't let it bother me at all. When I do whatever it is that gives my soul happiness, I always end up having whatever resources I need. If that happens to be money, so be it. If it happens to be access to housing like I have now, where I don't have to go jump through all the hoops, the universe hands me the perfect house. I don't have to sign anything. I don't have to put down any money. I just show up and throw cash at people, and they're happy with that. That is the universe providing me with resources. So you can get resources from, the universe will find the quickest way to give you whatever resources. If that's money, it'll give you money. If that's, free housing, it'll give you free housing. If it's whatever it is, it'll give you whatever you need. As long as you are operating from that. And when you're operating from the 5th dimension, it's impossible to do things that you don't like. It's impossible. You can't be living your dream and be doing something you don't like. Now, you might be doing something that frightens the part of you that's addicted to the narrative, but that's different. Being afraid of failure, being afraid of being judged, those are fears of something that hasn't happened. That's okay. You can go after what you want and those fears will pop up. And as long as you go, it's just a feeling. It's not reality. Do I have everything I need? Yep. Then that feeling doesn't mean anything. Have I taken action on what, because you're either going to be taking action on one of two things. You're going to be taking action on your fears, or you're going to be taking action on your desires. You can't do both. This is why, in case you know it, why, when guys have a problem in the bedroom, it's because they're feeling insecure. assuming there's not something physically wrong with them. If it's all upstairs. They're feeling insecure. So they're afraid. They're afraid of not performing well, not being accepted, not being good enough, not being loved, something like that. Afraid of commitment. They're afraid of something. So, but if they're completely lost in the lust of the moment, which is desire, if they're investing and experiencing their desire, then they'll be able to perform. But you can't have both. You can't be afraid and of sex and enjoy it. You're either enjoying it or you're not in the mood. The only two choices you have. For guys especially, because they have physical things they have to be able to maintain in order for the whole thing to work. Pushing rope, I guess is what they call it. So your reality is the same way. You cannot be going after the things that give you happiness and joy and be acting on your fear at the same time. You can't. Here are ways that you act on your fear. I'm lazy. I tell people there's no such thing as laziness, because it takes a huge amount of effort to keep putting things off. It takes more effort to put things off than it does to just get up and do something. Eating crappy food, overeating, eating a gallon of ice cream, that takes effort. You're doing it to avoid something, but it takes effort to do that. Not being able to sleep takes effort. It takes effort to not be able to sleep. You didn't know that. You have to put effort into it. Being afraid, feeling unlovable, all that stuff takes effort, and they're reactions. They're reactions to old programming. But you can choose to react or not to react. But the fact of the matter is, until somebody learns what it's like to accomplish something different, they usually won't. Unless their desire for the goal is strong enough. So if I'm doing my job, I have to be able to present to you the goal in such a way that you will want that more than you want the comfort of your familiarity with your fear. That's by the way, when I get frustrated with people's questions, I'm frustrated with myself because I'm obviously not presenting you the goal enough. What do I have to do to break through your addiction to your fear so you see the goal and you want it? That's my frustration. Ultimately, it's not my problem. You're the one that has to take action on it. I can only give you the tools and show you the map, and then you've got to do it. And if you don't do it, nothing I can do about it. When I work with clients, when I work with apprentices, I almost never reject them or stop working with them. They usually stop working with me. But if I do, it'll be because I've given you specific actions to take, and the person just repeatedly won't take action. I'll have whatever excuses they have, and then I'll go, I can't help you. Here's what I am suggesting that you do. And you have to believe and trust in me enough to take those actions no matter how frightening they are. And let's be clear, sometimes I tell people to do something very simple. I'll say, I need you 10 minutes 3 times a week to meditate, to walk, to play a musical instrument. And literally some of them will be incapable of walking around the block for 10 minutes a day, 3 days a week. When it's that bad, there's literally nothing I can do. Because if you don't take action and do something different, nothing's going to change. When you take action and you do something different, your whole chemistry changes in your body. Your nervous system changes. And there's a period of transformation where you're going through a transformative fear, which is you're letting go of what you don't understand, and your nervous system and your unconscious mind and your narrative matrix is screaming at you, you're going to die. You're going to die if you don't eat a gallon of ice cream. You know, why is it you can't stop eating a gallon of ice cream? Because your nervous system is telling you you're going to die if you don't eat a gallon of ice cream. You know, I've got one that works for me. If I don't go surfing, I'm not a happy guy. But it gets me up off my ass. Literally, there are times in the morning where I don't want to get out of bed, or I'm afraid. Wow, those waves look big. I'm afraid. That water looks cold. But the goal of feeling good afterwards is more powerful than not. So I do it. The goal at this stage, at 59, the goal of not going to the gym as often as I can, I can't tolerate that thought, because, you know, at this stage of the game, I'm going to start stiffening up, and, you know, if I don't keep the testosterone flowing in my body by, you know, doing squats or whatever it is, you know what I mean? I mean, that's worse. So I'll get my ass to the gym and I'll do whatever I have to do, because the goal is worth it. I'm willing to do that work because of the goal that's in front of me. The fifth dimension, the goal of the fifth dimension is being able to create any reality you can imagine. And that has to become more important than your addiction to the fear. And you won't walk away from the addiction to the fear until you realize that that is what's happening. That your nervous system and the glandular system in your body is keeping you addicted. But you complain about it. It's another reason why I have no tolerance for people who complain but aren't willing to do anything about it. If you complain but you're not willing to take direction, it means that you're happy being miserable. And I can't help you. I don't know who can. ETs can't do it. You know, ETs are very powerful, but they can't. If you're not willing to move out of your third dimensional reality and try and meet them halfway, they can't help you. They can't even reach you. You know, when I was married and I got divorced, you know, the reason I got divorced was my wife was miserable in the relationship. And she came to me with a list of what she called needs. And among those lists were totally unreasonable things. One of them was, I need for you, when I come home, to greet me at the door, and you need to make me feel loved. And I said, God can't even do that. I can show up at the door if you want, and I can greet you and hug you and ask you how your day was, but I can't guarantee how I'm going to be feeling in that moment, and I certainly can't guarantee that you're going to feel loved, even if I'm feeling love for you. God can't do that for you. We ended up getting divorced. So you have to accept that. There's nothing outside of you that's going to give you what you need. Nothing. It has to come from within you. All right. So when you operate from your 5D self through integrating your pineal gland portal to the fifth dimension, you are impervious to the false, non-existent 3D problems. You will be impervious to money problems. You will be impervious to self-hatred problems. You will be impervious to other people's feelings. It doesn't mean that things that they say and do won't hurt you. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But it won't have the ability to affect your behavior. What happens in codependent abusive relationships is that somebody is demeaning somebody else, and the other person allows their opinion to prevent them from doing things. People who can't, my brother, if he's still alive, I doubt that he is, but if he's still alive, unless something's changed, and I wish him all the best, but last I heard, he was living on the street and been living there for years. And no matter how much help you gave him, he refused to get off the street. He refused. Because he still believed on an unconscious level that in order to make his mother, who was now dead, in order to make her happy, he had to be miserable. Of course, consciously he would complain about it. In fact, if you let him, he would tell you that it was my fault. His little brother did it to him. He really needed to justify staying where he was, because on an unconscious level, he believed if he tortured himself, his mother would finally see him, feel sorry for him, and love him. And it never happened. Never happened. It's a horrible way to live. People are damaging themselves in the hope that they're going to get something. They still think they're going to get love. They're going to get approval. So when you can get to the point where other people's approval doesn't affect your actions, then you are living in yourself. You might be uncomfortable as hell, but there's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable. When you're uncomfortable because you are rewriting. You are rewriting the definition of who you are. And everything you do is based on the definition of who you are. If you believe that you're unlovable, you're, all the negatives, if you believe that, that's your identity. And your identity creates your personality, and your personality determines the actions that you take. This is what is most liberating about doing interdimensional meditation in CE5. Because these beings see you in your fifth dimensional self. They see you in your infinite God-like aspect, which is who you are. And when you communicate with them, the thing that they will do, 95% of their communication will be to overwhelm you with positive, loving. They will tell you things about yourself that you just don't believe. And if you keep doing it long enough, you start to believe what they tell you. In fact, in order to keep the connection going, you must accept what they tell you. Otherwise, the connection falls apart. I learned this, a long time ago with them, that if I wanted to keep connecting with them, I had to take what they told me at face value. I had to accept it, no matter how unbelievable it was. And it was always something positive about me. It was never anything negative. It was always positive. And what's happening is it's changing my definition of who I am. And the definition of who you are creates your personality. We talk about evil people. We can take Hitler. Hitler was an evil person because of his actions. And his actions was the direct result of his personality, which is obvious. He hated himself. He absolutely hated himself. And he couldn't tolerate that, so he projected that onto minorities, Jews, Gypsies, Slavs. He projected that onto anybody that wasn't what he wanted to be, which was, he wasn't even one. He wanted to look like the Aryan blonde. He didn't look like one. He looked like he was from, like Eastern Europe or something. But if he changed his definition of himself, if he saw himself as lovable, as valuable, as artistic, because he used to be an artist, as kind, as popular, as something that was divine and beautiful, I guarantee you his actions would have reflected that. He would have treated people the way he felt about himself. So your actions are going to be a result of the personality you create, which will be a result of who you accept as the definition of who you are. And when other people's opinions about you will not determine who you think you are, then you won't take action on that. Staying at home, refusing to go out and create a business or a life for yourself because you're still waiting around for your parents to love you, that's a personality trait. Because you believe what they told you. Their dysfunction when you were a little kid told you didn't have any value except for what you do for us or how you make us feel. And so you stayed at home. That's why my brother stayed at home as long as he could. Because he was programmed to believe what my mother had trained him to believe, which was that his value was based upon taking care of her. And once she died, he had nothing. He had nothing to live for, so he went out on the street. You got it? So when your 3D and your 5D work together, the goal here is to get the 5D down into the 3D. So the goal here is to perfect this experiment. This experiment that you created for the third dimension was so that you could learn to be completely physical while pulling from the fifth dimension to create a Disneyland. That's the sad part about watching 3D go away, is that we could have made this into a Disneyland. This could have been the vacation destination spot for the entire multiverse. That was our job. If we pull off this 5D Earth and we're able to create it, we will have succeeded. Then I can say that the experiment was a success. But that you can do that right now. You don't have to wait for something else to make it happen. You can do it right now. And by doing the way to do that is to do what I'm talking about. Go read my book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Go put it into Amazon. The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Go punch that into Amazon and go read that book. Master that book. If you master that book, you will be doing exactly what we're talking about. Now, if you want help, if you have difficulty going beyond your limitation, there are tools. And the pineal gland is a tool. If you want to create a portal to this higher dimensional part of yourself, there are tools that you can use. So it's okay if you feel like you can't do it. You don't have to imagine yourself being able to do it. This is the great thing about spiritual discipline. You can feel like you can't accomplish anything, but can you get up every day and do yoga for an hour? Can you get up every day and do qigong for an hour? Can you get up every day and do the Maoshan practices for half an hour? They're so powerful, you can do them. Can you do it half an hour a day and then meditate for 10 minutes and imagine your perfect life? If you can do that, and anybody can, there's no reason why you can't, then you can create that portal. The more you do the practices, the more powerful your pineal gland will become, the more powerful the portal will be, the easier it'll be for you to go to the fifth dimension and back. And my job will then be to help you deal with your narrative nervous system matrix as it starts to act up, because you're now acting different from what you understand, and you're going to have all kinds of fears. And my job is to sit here and tell you that's okay. It's just a feeling. Are you doing this practice? Are you doing that practice? My job is to be an umpire, to help you to stay on base. That's it. You're the one that does it, and everybody can do it. All right, let's see. Anything else in my notes? So, catastrophizing is a good word. And they tell people with mental problems, stop catastrophizing. But that's really what it is. When you're trapped in your third dimensional, fear-based nervous system, you're catastrophizing. You're creating a catastrophe that doesn't exist. So the ways to turn that off is energy work, meditation, any discipline whatsoever. Any discipline. A discipline is something you do on a regular basis. Anything that puts you in a state of discipline where you go beyond your discomfort, you are already in a state of the unknown, and that is something that will teach you how to go forward. The 12 steps, as I've said before, any 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Love and Sex Anonymous, Gambling Anonymous, Codependence Anonymous, Adult Children of Alcoholics, Al-Anon, I don't care what 12-step group it is. If you work all 12 steps with a sponsor, you can't do it alone. That is the most powerful way to rewire your brain. So that's easy. Those are free. They don't cost you anything. And by the way, you won't need therapy. I use therapy. It's as an adjunct, but what really got me to where I'm at right now is working the 12 steps. Continuously working them. Whenever I'm resentful, I do a fourth step every time. So, only problem is that the only time people do the 12 steps is when their life is in danger. Most of the time people won't do it. But I've even heard from Tibetan Buddhists that the 12 steps actually embodies what Buddhism tries to teach people. You want to gain what Buddhism is trying to teach you? Work the 12 steps. The fifth way to turn off the 3D catastrophizing is interdimensional meditation. That's the quickest way. So that's why I recommend that. So that's it. I think I've hit all my notes. I'd just be repeating myself if I kept going. So again, if you want to learn practices that will get you into that state quicker, go to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge and subscribe. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. Go to courses.thunderwizard.com to see all of the stuff that I teach, all of the other practices. Any one of them will help you in this. My books, Interdimensional Revolution and Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth, as well as The Shamanic Secret, Commandment to a Perfect Life. Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward. Those books can be found on Amazon, Kindle, and Audible. You can just type my name in, Michael William Denny, on Amazon, and you'll find, print books. You'll find the digital books. You'll find recorded, and of course the Interdimensional Meditation course. There are free guided interdimensional meditations on this channel. You can do them for free. You can do the advanced stuff here at thunderwizard.com. All right, that's it. Let's take a look and see what kind of questions we have. All right, let's see. Question. This is Agent of the Universe asks, do you believe monotheism created autism? All right, so the short answer to your question, Agent of the Universe, is no. So it will really help you if you stop going to these places. Stop looking for somebody to blame. We're seeing a pattern with you. Your first response is to blame somebody, which is what? The exact opposite of what I'm telling you. Everything is inside of you. You change yourself, you'll change everything else. But as long as you're in that victim mentality, which is when you blame somebody else, you're in a victim mentality. I'm not trying to take away your challenges, your difficulty, your discomfort, but trying to find somebody to blame, you're just staying in it. So this is frustrating because I've been trying to teach you this and you're not getting it. So what can I do to help you understand that it's never about anything or anybody else. It never has been. It never will be. Keep doing the practices. You can have whatever feelings you want. You can have all those feelings, but keep taking the actions of being self-responsible. What else? Rami, question. If a human being ascended to 5D, will the need to exist in physical body cease for him? So Rami, there's a lot of assumptions there. Who says that you have a need to exist in the physical body now? You exist in a physical body because you chose to exist in a physical body, and you're still in a physical body because you're choosing to. You're not choosing to out of anything negative. You're choosing to because your soul wants to be here. So I wish everybody would just accept that. You're here because you want to be here. So just be here. Now, instead of asking the question about just like, okay, I'm here. How can I make the best of this? How can I, how can I enjoy it? That's really the best question. What can I do to absolutely love being here? If you guys follow my channel, you know I do whatever the hell it takes to be happy. I mean, the risks that I took multiple times to come to foreign countries because they had the exact, recipe of what my fantasy is. I found it, but I have to sacrifice a lot and do a lot to be here. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Whatever the hell it takes, I will do it in order to have what I want. I'm never going to let anything stop me. I'm never going to deny myself anything. If I want it, I'm going to have it. I might not know how I'm going to get it. I might not, in the moment, see that I have the resources to do it, but that's not going to stop me because I choose to be here and I choose to be as happy as I can stand. And I will not let the same things that I have within me, I'm not going to let my negative programming, I'm not going to let my negative self-identity, I'm not going to let any discomfort that I have to go through. I'm not going to let anything stop me from being happy because I know that in the third dimension, when I'm doing what I want, I'm having so much fun. I can't even imagine being anywhere else. When I'm out there surfing on a good day, there's nothing, I don't need anything. I can't imagine anything else. I don't want to be anywhere else. So I'm not understanding the question, but I'm getting, again, Rami, my first thought is, are you doing the practices? Are you subscribed to the 90-day challenge? Are you doing any of the practices I teach on a daily basis? Because I still hear the need to exist in a physical body. Having a physical body, look, you're not understanding what your body is. We have to ask the question, why would you, because you used to be a multidimensional, non-physical being of light. In fact, that's what your soul still is. So if you chose to come here, there must have been a reason. You must have wanted to come here for some reason. So there must have been something you thought you were really going to enjoy by coming here. So you don't even need to be in a physical body now. The human body, what human beings are designed to understand, the 3D was designed to help you understand that this physical body is actually the most powerful spiritual technological tool in existence. This physical body has 5 organs which actually have the ability to transmit the power of the 5 elements. How would you feel if you had the ability to control the 5 elements? That's what this physical body gives you the ability to do. You can't do it when you're just this amorphous blob of, blissful energy. You need a physical body to be able to take those elements and turn them into something. The power that comes from that. The Maoshan 5 element practices, if you do them, you'll know what I'm talking about. You have these 3 energy centers, the third eye, the heart, and the navel. Rami, are you watching any of my videos about that? Are you doing the 3 ones meditation? How is it you don't lust after the power that your physical body can give you? Why would you want to get rid of that? It's because you don't know. That's okay. What about the chakras? The 7 chakras have the power to create the solar system and all of the stars and the planets. They wouldn't exist without your 7 chakras. You chose to have this physical body so that you could project that and create. Why would you want to get rid of that? People, if people knew, if people had the slightest idea of the power that they have just by being human. You have the ability to shift your DNA. You have so much power. Listen, the gods wish they could be human. There are entities out there, powerful entities of light that wish they could become human, but they know they don't have the guts. They're like, I'm not going, they take their hat off to you. Like, you were human? Holy crap, you got a big pair. So Rami, if you're here and you've got a physical body, it means that you had the guts and the power to take this physical body, take it to the next level. The thought of not needing to have one, that's crazy. It's coming from, there's something in it that smacks of fear to me. You have an assumption that you're trapped here and if you could get out of it, you'd be okay. And what if I told you that wasn't true? You can overcome anything. I mean, I'm listening to Joe Dispenza, not a lot, on some of his stuff, but people are healing themselves of blindness just because they're learning how to tap into their pineal gland. They're doing the impossible. to understand that this physical reality is completely malleable. If you're able to take your intention and focus on the quantum field and bring it here into the third dimension. But what's going to happen with human beings? I'm going to give you a hint about what's coming. What's going to happen with human beings is that when human beings go into this state of true humanity, we're going to want to come here, and we're going to want to be human so that we can meditate, so that we can take the quantum field and bring it through all of these systems, the chakra system, the Dantian system, the 5 elements, and we're going to create worlds. We're going to create new dimensions that have never existed. You can't do that if you don't have a projector. Your physical body has this, we hear about wizards but what's going to happen when everybody is a Merlin the magician? And that's just, everybody's a Merlin the magician. That's where we're headed. But you got to want to go there. You can't go there if you don't have a physical body. So don't be so quick to get rid of your physical body. To answer your question, people in the 5th dimension have physical bodies. You can have a physical body up through the 8th dimension, I believe. Once you get into the 9th dimension, you might have a physical body, but it's not really, And then once you get to the 10th dimension, you're just purely, it's impossible to have a body in the 10th dimension. So you can be a spirit in the 5th dimension, but I don't want that. I want to keep my body in the 5th dimension. This is what Taoists talk about. Taoists talk about becoming perfected immortals. If you talk to a Taoist in a monastery, he'll say, "No, I'm working to become a god." What he means by that is he's going to take the body that he has, and he's going to do his qigong, he's going to do his energy work, and he's going to do his meditation, he's going to open up the meridians, and he's going to open up the pineal gland, and he's going to use his intention to shift the energy of his body so that he shifts body, soul, and mind into the 5th dimension. That's what Taoists go for. It's completely different from your typical Vedic understanding where the idea is to achieve enlightenment and leave the body. Everybody thinks if they leave the body, they're going to be free. Where do you think demons go? Demons don't have a physical body, and they're not free. Being free of your physical body isn't necessarily going to give you anything. If you bring victim mentality with you, you'll go to a place where you're victimized without a body. And that'll be worse. You won't have this tool to manifest yourself a new reality. Have I made myself clear? It's why it's so important, you guys, Rami included, everybody. Watch my videos. Take them to heart. Don't just come in here and listen. You only have a little bit of information. You bring all of your assumptions with you. Be ready to drop every single one of your assumptions about reality. That you have to escape the matrix, that your body is bad, all the things that you've been told, all the fear-based nonsense that you've been told by religion, by New Age, by your experience. If you can get to the place where you love your body, where you love being physical, where you love being here on earth, then you have the ability to be the most powerful being that ever existed. You have the ability in this physical 3D reality. If you open up all of these tools and you use them, the gods themselves will bow down before you. They will serve you. Imagine that. Pick your god, Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu, Jesus, Buddha. Imagine them appearing and bowing before you and saying, "How can I serve you?" Think I'm kidding? This is where we missed it. We missed what the 3rd dimension and being human was all about. Do you want that? Do the practices. Do the interdimensional meditation. Now you have a goal. Every time that you feel fear, every time you feel unlovable, every time you feel unworthy, that's just your addiction to what you understand. Go into the unknown. Be willing to be uncomfortable and go into the unknown. What else? El Biza question, what happened? Why do we skip 4D and go straight to the 5th? So El Biza, again, this channel is here for you to use. Please go and research my channel, watch videos. If you're just somebody that comes on here and you bounce from one YouTube channel to another, and that question means you haven't listened. I've answered that question almost every time I come on here. I answer it. In fact, I answered it earlier and you weren't listening. You can go back and watch this video from the beginning. I tell you exactly what this is, so you have to pay attention. The two most important things in life, pay attention and put effort. So pay attention to what I'm saying and put effort into understanding it. I'm going to answer your question. The third dimension is the physical space within which we live. But if we're just in the third dimension, there's no movement. In order to move within the third dimension, we need the fourth dimension, which is time. That's why they call it space-time. Time is the fourth dimension. We're not skipping it. You're already in it. You've been told an inaccurate truth about what the fourth dimension is. The fourth dimension isn't whatever you've been told, and that we're going to go from the third to the fourth to the fifth. This is people talking out of their rear end. They haven't done any research. They probably don't have any experience. It sounds good. But, listen, there is a science to this. Physics is telling us what it's like. And what's missing in physics is the understanding that there's emotion and spirit involved. Because 3D, we can't access that very easily. So scientists only know what they can experience. But they're able to guess correctly what the fifth dimension, the sixth, seventh, eighth is like. So does that answer your question? So please put more time and effort into watching my channel. Look, guys, I honestly, I don't know why this channel doesn't have, billions of subscribers. I don't understand it. There's not a whole lot of channels that'll tell you the stuff that I tell you. In fact, some of this is the only place you can find it. And if you treat this channel like a library, you want to learn about the third dimension or the fifth dimension, you can type it in and go look for it. But you got to get up off your ass, do the work, and do the research. Treat it like a library like a physical library. You have to go in and look for the book, take it out, and then read it. Go onto my channel, look for the things, and read it. You don't want to do that? You want me to guide you through it? Then subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge, and you can learn the basics of the mastery of shamanism. You can learn the Manifestation Mastery course. You're going to have to put the study and the work in. What else? So I hope I answered that question for you. I don't see any other questions. Oh, here comes one. Flame 160. Question. Please write the word question in all caps. Pay attention. Question in all caps, please, so that I don't miss it. You say, what if going... Why did you delete your question? I was just about to read it. I can't answer a question if I can't read it, so I'm sorry. Maybe I answered it. All right, is that it? Oh, here we go. It's back. Flame 160. Question. You didn't write your question, the word question in all caps. What if going into my pain causes others around me pain? Well, you have a wrong assumption. So Flame 160, if you had read my book, which is very cheap, you can read it for, I think I talk, I don't know if I read it on my channel or not, but the shamanic, I'll write it again. And listen to what I say. I never say anything that I don't mean. So listen to what I'm about to say about this book. Let me write it, because I'm a typical guy. I can only do one thing at a time. Okay. The shamanic secret commandment to a perfect life. You see that? That is the title of the book. Now listen to what I'm about to say, because I never say anything I don't mean. If you read that book and read it over and over on a daily basis, you absorb what I teach you in that book, and if you live what I tell you in that book, you will never ask the question you just asked. Because you're operating from a narrative. You've been programmed to believe some false truth. And that false truth is that that you are responsible for other people's feelings. And you're not, because nothing happens outside of you. I should say also, you're not responsible for people's reactions. But worse than that, your question, now if you say flame 160, it makes me think you're into the twin flame thing, which is, by the way, twin flame is just another word for chronic codependent relationship. So if you're a codependent, what ends up happening is that you believe that your worth comes from how you make other people feel. So if you have codependent people in your life, they're going to make you feel responsible for their bad feelings. If you're in a bad mood, they're going to say, you're making me feel bad, which is impossible. They can choose to react to your feeling bad and feel bad. Usually what happens is, if somebody makes us feel bad because they're having a feeling, it means that we already have that feeling and we're seeing it in them. This is why codependent people try and talk you out of their feelings. You know, when my fiance died, I went to a memorial, just an informal memorial at the beach. And, you know, we were all sad. I was very sad. She was my fiance. She was the love of my life, and she was gone. And there was a woman there, and, you know, just seeing the moistness in my eyes, she would say, "Don't be sad. Don't be sad. Look at how beautiful it is today. Don't be sad." Now, I didn't say anything because it wasn't appropriate, but normally I would have said, "Don't tell me how to feel. Don't talk me out of my feelings. I have the right to be sad." But it was because she was so uncomfortable with her sadness, she couldn't be around anybody else who was sad. So she had to pretend like she was helping him. But the truth is, she was being very aggressive, very controlling. And people who try to fix other people, codependent people, going around trying to make everybody feel better, which, as you know, I don't do that. I'll tell you the truth no matter how it makes you feel. I'm interested in your health, your happiness, not in whether or not you like me. Trying to make people feel good because you feel that's your job in life means that you don't love yourself, and your only value comes from loving others. Now, somebody taught you that. Somebody told you that you don't have any value except for how you make me feel. And that's just not how it works. So if you go into your pain, it's causing other people around you pain. It means that they already have that, and they don't want to look at it. Now, it's one thing to have your pain, and it's another thing to thrust it on other people. This is what narcissists do. They're mean, they're destructive, they're controlling, they devalue others. They do that because of their own pain, and they want to make you feel bad so they're not alone. It makes them feel better to try and make you look bad, make you feel bad. That's different. But if you're just having your emotions, and just having your emotions makes somebody else say, "You're making me feel bad," they don't love you. Because if somebody loves you, they're going to go, "What's wrong? Tell me about it." And you talking about your pain isn't going to make them full of pain. It's going to bring out compassion in them. And they're going to say, "Tell me about it. How can I help you? I want to help you be happy." In a positive way, not in a codependent, controlling way. So your pain cannot cause other people around you pain. It doesn't work like that. This is obvious codependence. So I would recommend finding a counselor, working, go to Codependence Anonymous. If you go to Codependence Anonymous, they'll answer that question in the first meeting. 12 steps. Al-Anon, adult children of alcoholics. But let me guess, you grew up in a traumatic household. Your childhood was painful. I already know, but just by your question, I already know. So you want to solve that? 12-step work is the best way to solve that. The encourager, all I need is the word question in all caps, not the whole thing. Then it feels like you're yelling at me. So encourager, if you're going to write a question, do me a favor, write a question with a subject, an object. Don't be lazy. It's disrespectful to me. It's disrespectful to you. You write, people born in evil, can you explain? I don't know what that means. That's not a question. Asking me to explain people born in evil. Born in veil. I don't know what that means either. So put some effort into explaining your question. I need to know what you're trying to solve. I need to know what problem I can help you solve. I don't know what that means. Okay? So try again. Thanks for your question. El Bliza, okay. All right. Nothing else. No, I could respond to that, but I'm not going to. Very good. No more questions? Okay, so that's it. We're done for today. Good. I got this out of the way early because I want to go surfing again. Surf was so good yesterday. I think it'll be fun today. So again, everybody listening to me, if you're not doing the work, nothing's going to change. Your feelings, whatever feeling you have now, whatever problem you're facing, you're poor, you're unhealthy, you're angry, you're lonely, you're miserable, you're frightened, you want out of this matrix. None of that is going to change if you don't do the work. And what is the work? The work is being willing to, number one, do something different. And if you don't know what the goal is, you won't be willing to do something different. And the goal is what I talked about. Imagine, without having to escape, imagine in your third dimensional body having your chakras aligned, your pineal gland awakened, your energy meridians open and functioning. Imagine having the power to control the 5 elements, to create a Disneyland on Earth for yourself right here and now. Are you willing to do that? If so, then you're going to have to do some work to open up those energy systems, overcome your fear-based beliefs, and there's plenty of places to go. I've given you what works for me, and if you want what I have, you got to do what I do. Go to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, and binge watch all of those videos. Okay, go all the way back to the mastering of shamanism. Binge watch all of them, and you don't have to worry about it. And do every day, just press play on each phase and just do what I'm showing you how to do. It's real simple. But if you don't do the work, nothing will happen. You're right. Good for you, encourager, standing up for yourself. If you don't know, you don't know. Good for you. You're right. So I don't know what that means, people born in veil. There's an assumption there, like there are some people who aren't born in a veil, some people are. So my first answer to your question is watch my channel. Put some time into watching my channel. Go back and watch things like go and find my videos about karma. Go find my videos about reincarnation. Go and watch more of my videos about all of that. But when somebody throws out, because what you did, bear in mind, the encourager, your question really isn't a focused question, right? A question is, can you tell me how to tap into the pineal gland? What happens when I chant this mantra? Even people ask, what if my pain causes other people pain? That's a focused question. You've got this huge thing, people born in the veil, that has its own assumptions in there, what you're forcing me to believe, which I don't even know what that means. And then on top of that, you say, explain. So you're asking me to go into a 3-hour diatribe about, the veil. So I encourage you to be more specific, finding what it is that you want. What do you want? What do you want to accomplish? And on this channel, I'm going to give you specific things. This isn't, some new age channel where, and you wanting me to barf out a bunch of, nondescript generalities about things. I'm not going to do that. I want to solve your problem. So like you said, you're new to the channel, so good for you for standing up for yourself. But now I see you're wanting to argue with me a little bit. So we're not going to get along in my classroom if you're going to want to argue with me. I'll do my best to give you my suggestions, and if you take them and do them, you'll find out. But, if this isn't the place for you, feel free to go somewhere else. You won't hurt my feelings if you find someplace else that gives you what you need. But you won't know that until you spend some time on the channel and watch the videos. Again, this is a library. Put some time into, usually people are better off asking me questions after they've put some time into watching more of the videos. All right, that's it. Again, thank you guys for showing up. I love you all. And as always, if I've done or said anything that hurts your feelings or offends you, know that it's coming from my desire to be as helpful as I possibly can. I love you so much. I don't care whether you like me or not. I only care that I get the information to you and that you take it and that you use it. And sometimes I have to point out where your own thinking is blocking you. And usually people, their egos are attached to what they do and they take it personally when I point out to you. But just like anything, you want to learn how to fence, you want to learn how to surf, you want to learn how to box. They start telling you what you're doing wrong. You can't start arguing, getting all bent out of shape and getting your feelings hurt because the guy says, no, you got to hold your shoulder like this and you got to punch from here instead of saying, no. Listen, pay attention, apply it to your life and then see what happens. All right, that's it for me. I've done everything I need to do. All right, thanks guys. I will see you all very soon. Before I go, I just want you to know that there's a narrative that's now coming that you need to be aware of. You're being told on mainstream media, there's a guy out there who is a so-called whistleblower about UFOs, and he's trying to upstage Dr. Greer, who is, if you've watched Dr. Stephen Greer's channel, you know that he is actually working with Congress to reveal the deep state UFO program. In other words, we have flying saucers and we have, technology, etc., that could be used to fake UFO abductions, landings, etc. And he is exposing that. There's a guy on mainstream media who is presenting himself as a whistleblower, David Grush. He's not a whistleblower. He still works for whatever intelligence programs hired him to begin with. And now he started out trying to be like looking like a Dr. Greer. Oh, the government is using, has this UFO program and I'm here to whistleblow on it, yet they plaster him all over mainstream media. That should tell you something right there. But I knew it was coming. Now he's starting to say, and there's evidence that that aliens are killing humans. That is a lie. It's a lie. So what's happening is that the deep state that uses these, that has been planning to use this technology in certain ways I can't talk about, is now backpedaling, and they're trying to sound like Dr. Greer. A lot of people are buying it, but now the truth comes out. He's going to give you the narrative that ETs are going to kill you. So I recommend getting the truth. Go to Dr. Stephen Greer's YouTube channel and listen to that. And don't listen to the fear. The extraterrestrials and higher dimensions, they're not out to cause any harm whatsoever. So I hope you can look for that. All right, that's it. I'm done talking. I'll see you guys all next time.